Good evening. Oh, sorry. Good evening.
Hello and welcome.
Thanks for coming. We're going to start. This is the talk we're going to do today. It's Agile plus when Agile goes well, basically. So,
So
who
if you
am I?
didn't sign up for that talk, you're in the wrong room. You've got to get out.
So my name is Israel, and I currently work for, I'm a software developer currently for LMAX.
I'm Trisha G. I used to be a software developer for LMAX, and now I work for 10gen, the MongoDB people.
Mm-hmm. Who's LMAX? Any of you guys have heard about the disruptor? Cool.
Oh my goodness.
That's nice. So basically, for those of you who haven't heard about the disruptor and about LMAX, we are a financial exchange based in London, and we work under a really heavily regulated environment, and yet we manage to release every 2 weeks new feature into production. For many of you, maybe that doesn't sound really exciting, but in the bank industry, if you are releasing every 4 months, you are extremely lucky. Usually it's one release every year. Okay, so we also have managed to double the development team, and we didn't have any downtime because of that. How did we manage to do this?
Oh, right, it's me. Well, it's fairly simple, actually. We say we actually found the magic bullet. And the magic bullet is to think. And it's really not that hard to think about what it is you're trying to achieve. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. So this is something that developers are very good at. Developers are good at taking a problem, breaking it down, looking at what the symptoms of a situation are, and trying to come up with different solutions for those particular problems. And we've heard a bit about this during some of the things like the keynotes and some of the other presentations today about how people have been using frameworks to try and implement processes to force the way that you work, and we've been talking a little bit about scientific method in the keynote, things like that. So this is just basically the process that LMAX went through in order to come up with their process today.
You guys have the tiny cloud of ideas with all the words that cake people? Yes. It's not that we have people made of cake, it's just we like cake a lot.
And we like people.
And yep, and how did we manage to get there and use all this process and that you guys can see there?
And it didn't happen by magic. We didn't open up a book which said, this is the LMAX way, thou shalt do it this way, and then we did it that way and then it worked. It was an incremental process of making a number of changes as we came across a particular problem or wanted to do things in a particular way. We iterated over our own development process, and we learnt about better ways of doing things as we were going along. In the beginning, way back, before I joined in about 2008. And when I joined, we had a process very similar. I say we, I don't work there anymore, but at the time when I was part of LMAX, we had a process which looks very familiar to people who might have heard people from LMAX, ThoughtWorks speak, people who've read various agile ways of doing stuff. We were using iterations, retrospectives, stand-ups, all these great agile things. So we took some of the XP practices, and actually we pretty much do all of them. We do pair programming, we do everything you see up there. We automate most of those, so we're forced to do the agile things and forced to do things in XP way. And we looked at Scrum, and we looked at the processes that Scrum give you to pull together some of these XP practices, and we do all of those too. That was at the beginning, 4 years ago.
So that's it. Thank you for coming. Just use Agile. We're done.
Everyone lives happily ever after, and no, that's not how it works.
Basically, not really. Have you guys I'm sure that you guys have seen, zombie movies, right? So usually the plot is the zombie outbreak happens in a tiny town. Even tiny group of people manage to survive. Everyone dies except for the hero, and at the end, the army gets there, saves the day, and everybody's happy. That's basically what we see right now, right? So all the books about Agile, all the presentations about Agile, all the coaches that you get about Agile, they tell you how to get there, but what happened next, right? What kind of problems? Would you have ever problems if after you manage to succeed to put all those practices in practice?
In place.
In place, thank you. Have you guys seen? Have you guys read or watched The Walking Dead? The good thing about that, it's cool people. So
3 people, excellent.
The storyline of that series is basically tells you that what happened after the whole Earth has been taken by zombies, and what do you need to do to survive in this new world with these new problems that you didn't have before? You before had problems like, should I buy those jeans or the other ones? And now you have to think about food, how, where. So,
are you saying that doing Agile is like a zombie apocalypse?
Yes. I mean, no, not at all. Not at all. Not saying anything like that. So, we're going to tell you guys what kind of problems have we found, a few of the problems that we have found, and how did we find a solution for those problems, okay?
The first issue we had was a massive test backlog. And this is familiar to most people, whatever methodology you're using, whether you're doing Agile or Waterfall or whichever flavor of Agile you're using. So we'll go through a little bit of how this manifests itself. We had a Scrum board that looks a bit like this. Scrum boards, obviously, everyone does their own different flavors, and this is a simplified version of what was happening at the time. So you pick up a new card off the top end of the backlog, you bring it into to-do when you're going to play it in that iteration, then it becomes in progress when you're doing stuff on it, you move it into testing, and then we all live happily ever after, and it goes into done. And it goes to production.
Except it doesn't. What you really get is this. You get on the testing side, if your testing team is small, and it should, you get loads of stories that needs to get tested. And the developers, us developers, we just try to create work on new stories, and we try to pilot stories after stories after stories.
Because our job is to get it out of the in-progress column and, and basically away and start working on new functionality.
So we have a problem, right? So what did we do about it? We thought about it and said, okay, well, one of the cool things that we can do is just basically let's create a different board, put all the testing cards that are blocking our tremendous and magnificent process, and hide it away. So we did that.
That didn't work so well.
No.
And then we had the testers asking to hire more testers, and then we would end up with as many testers as we had developers, and we thought, we're supposed to be this amazing Agile team. We're supposed to be doing testing in parallel with development, and we're talking about hiring more testers. This can't be right.
So we tried to, we decided to move to Kanban, try a different approach. Basically, for those of you who are not familiar with this, with the Kanban approach, it's basically the same board that you guys seen before, but we divided in lanes so that we said, well, we are so cool and so fast developing things that we're going to try to limit the amount of work that we have in flight. So for every team that we have in the company, we're going to create a lane. And only those stories, one story per lane, and only those stories are going to get played. This really helped us visualize the problem, where the blockage were. Okay? We got here. We managed to, we managed to get, basically I have just explained how it works, right? So the yellow things are developers, pairs of developers working on a story. The purple ones are the tasks that they are working on. And a waiting showcase is just the tasks and the stories that they need to get played. By the time that the story has been tested and developed, they sit on the awaiting showcase to show to the business, and they say, yeah, well, it's cool, that's what we wanted, or we get more feedback, and we go back and finish what they were asked to change. Sorry. The important key here is that the story that goes into the awaiting showcase doesn't free the lane. So if you have a story on that column, you cannot work on new functionality. You have to wait until that is out of there. Okay? And
the thing is, what really happened was, we don't get this nice Kanban-style flow. You end up with a bunch of tasks, no developers in that lane because they've finished all the development tasks. The poor little green thing is the tester who has to finish all of the tasks. And then you end up with that for all of the stories that are in play. All 3 lanes are blocked, waiting for the tester. So we didn't fix the problem at all. What we'd actually done is we'd really made the problem visible. The suggestion at this point from the developers was, well, you know what, those stories, they're sort of done, so why don't we just take them away and put them onto the testing Kanban board, and then we could pick up new stories. We could free up the lanes.
That's not something that we have suggested already?
Yes, and it didn't work so well that time either. So the thing to do here was not to try and hide these tasks away. The board had exposed the problem that was already going on. It hadn't changed anything, which was okay. What we wanted to do was make it visible. So we realized, we drilled down to find out why the testers couldn't test these things as they were coming in. And it was reasons like you couldn't test the tasks individually. You had to wait for all of them to be finished before you could start anything. The testers might be unable to deploy to their testing environment, and so they couldn't test anything. They'd been sat there for a week not being able to test anything. It might be that they were waiting for developers to help them write the automated acceptance tests. So actually, these are all things that developers could do something about. So saying the 4 developers are sat there doing nothing was misleading, because in actual fact, what we ended up doing was saying, well, the developers need to help them get their QA environment working. They need to write tasks which are testable as they go along so that the testers can test them, not just as a big bang at the end. Developers need to, what was the other thing? I can't remember. The QA environment, the tests, and write acceptance tests. We have automated acceptance tests. It's easy for developers to write them, and we know what they should look like. They sit down with BAs and QAs and write the automated acceptance tests. In the very worst possible scenario, i.e. this one, if there's nothing else they can do to help unblock things, the developers have to test the functionality they didn't write.
And I don't know about you guys, but the people I know, they don't like testing. They prefer doing something else, like creating new functionality. So at this point, they have a real incentive to come up with really testable tasks.
And
so
really
they
good
don't
ways
have to do any of this work.
to not
right?
end up in that situation.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Problem.
It's me. The problem with co-presenting is it your turn? Oh, it's my turn. I can't remember. Problem number 2, estimation hell. This is not a new problem. Everyone has this. Does anyone actually like doing estimations? There's like some people. Does anyone not like doing estimations? Good. I thought you were just sat there still and not participating. So estimations suck. We hate doing estimations, the business hate our estimations, and we can never predictably deliver. One of the things we were trying to do at LMAX was deliver functionality every 2 weeks. And that's fine, but if you don't really know what functionality you're getting every 2 weeks, it's kind of difficult for the business to prioritize and to make decisions.
So now we're going to do a tiny little experiment, okay? We're going to keep this talk really... dynamic? No! I did it wrong.
You gave away the punchline.
Watch closely. It's going to be, I'm going to show you this slide and the next one, and it's going to be a really subtle difference, right? So really pay attention, because it's really complicated to get the differences. Even when we're in the middle of, that was horrible. When we're in the middle when we are in the middle of developing something, right? We turn out to explode all the tasks, and we thought it was going to be 3, and then it turned out to be 15. And by the time we're doing the 12th one, turns out to be that one needs to be expanded into 20 more. That's one. So why is that, right? Why is that? Human suck at estimation. This isn't
Scientifically proven.
She's the native, I'm not.
Yeah, you speak better English than I do.
Right? So that thing she said, it was proven by the word that she said. Imagine that you are in the cave, a caveman, right? With my size, my size of leg, and this massive T-Rex is waiting outside the cave, and I really need to go to the next one and say, oh, wait a minute, that's really massive. This is my leg. Am I going to be able to get to the next cave? No, I'm not going to get out of that cave, aka we're not going to leave the cave, we're going to die of starvation, we're never going to have anything to eat. So we are, genetically wired to say, of course, I can make it. And maybe for sure, the 4 guys that tried to run out of the cave and tried to get to the next one died miserably. But while the T-Rex was eating those 4, the rest of the tribe managed to get safely to the next one, right? So that's how we survive as a species. It's not my laptop, this is my laptop. So guess what? At LMAX, after all, we're human. So we basically suck at estimation as well. What are the first thing that we had was that we're trying to estimate in points. 15. But what is 15? The problem with numbers, one of the problems that we found with numbers is that for us, developers and mathematicians and scientific people, yes. They have meaning, right? So we end up thinking about days. So 15, it's 3 days, and I divide it by 2. So we don't really get a really nice idea of we got caught into trying to think about days and how long it was going to take us to deliver this, to finish this. Even in the happy path, right? It's not that we are really, really bad and we say, this is going to take me 1 day or going to take me 20. And I know the code. I've been there plenty of times, and I know that I can just change this semicolon and it's going to work. But then you go into the code, right, and you get to the happy path and say, oh, yeah, but the code around it is really rubbish. Why don't try to refactor a little bit? And then you spend 3 days trying to refactor this because you didn't thought about all the things that were connected to that stuff. So, again, something that was supposed to take you 5 minutes, it's taking you 3 days. What did we do? Another problem that we have with this is that, we did all the estimation at the beginning of the iteration. So for all the stories that we were planning to play, we did those estimations at first. So by the time that we wanted to play that, the whole idea that we have, the good knowledge that we have about the concept, how are we going to attack the problem, it was completely gone, right? So, yes, you're touching that, I'm not touching that anymore. So what did we do?
We broke out the golden hammer. And we thought about the problem. And we realized that we were getting caught up with the numbers, we're getting caught up with time, and this whole thing is killing us. So we very early on moved to a t-shirt size model, which we thought would distance us from this idea of numbers. Is this twice as big as this? And we just estimated in small, medium, and large. And the idea was to estimate small ones as being similar to that other small one a little while ago, or large ones as being similar to that large one over there, similar to other types of functionality in terms of length of time. And we tried to stick to that. The business actually used to turn these into numbers for us anyway, so that they could do some sort of numeric counting thing, but we didn't really care about that.
Guess what? We still suck at it. We end up thinking again about days, and that's not the right way. So we try to think, well, S is going to be something we can do in a day, less than a day. Medium is going to be something that we
Between 1 and 10 days.
And a large always is going to be something that will fit the whole iteration. So if we have a large story, that's going to be the whole iteration. What are the problems that we've found? We're really rubbish. Human beings are really rubbish at estimation. So the smalls tend out to be medium. The medium, can fluctuate between small and large, and who knows. And the large always end up going into more than one iteration. So we fail, basically.
So we didn't stop there. We didn't go back to the old ways. We didn't stick with the t-shirt sizes, thinking, well, this was our idea, this was our fix, and we're just going to stick with it. We went to Plan B, and one of our teams decided, let's be realistic. Let's just live with the fact that we can't estimate. We don't know how to estimate. We're always wrong. We know that we've got this Kanban board. We know we've got this pool of events that go through the Kanban board, and it'll get done when it gets done. This was particularly tried out on a team which had this big epic that needed to be done, and it was all sort of done it's something that just needed to be done in order, so it didn't really matter how long it took necessarily. However, the business hated this, obviously. And at this time, we'd actually gone live. We had real customers we needed to promise things to. And just turning around to them and saying, look, it's in priority order. We'll get round to doing it at some point. Just wasn't good enough. It just wasn't good enough for them. And you can understand why. Some customer says, when will you get this new order type? And the business says, we've got no idea, because development just says it'll be done when it's done.
But no, not only that, not only the business was not happy. Even the team that was, the developers that were in that team were not happy. You know, we tend to have lunches together and, you know, talk about stuff like The Walking Dead and things like that.
Television lunch.
So, sitting down at lunchtime, you know, what are you working on? Well, I'm working in a new cool feature that we just finished, and before we were working on other really, really awesome things that we just did. What are you guys working on? The same thing that we were working last week, and the week before, and the week before, and so forth, right? So no one was happy with this approach.
It was a lose-lose situation.
So again, we tried to do something. We thought about a different approach. We liked the idea of having a task breakdown. We liked the idea of being able to estimate. We lose the good things about estimating the cards, and we also we have the worst of the two worlds. So we decided, okay, let's forget about estimations. We're not going to say this is going to take X days. We're just going to gather the team that is going to work on this story at the beginning of the story, just that story. And we're going to bring in the testers, we're going to bring in the the BAs, everybody in the team, and let's try to do a task breakdown, a cohesive task breakdown. So now we need to think about, always thinking about that the task needs to be testable. And we could see, the whole team was there seeing if we got like 25 stickies. That doesn't sound like a small story. If it's less than blah, so we get a visual references of how big we thought the task is going to be. Of course, we didn't fail. The word that I'm looking for is that didn't prevent that stories exploding and getting bigger. Right? But at least if
they did, then we could see it straight away. And we could see it in two different places. You could see it either at the start, when you do the task breakdown and you end up exploding into 55,000 stickies, then you know you have to break it into multiple different stories. So we would do that, we would go back to the business and get them to reprioritize those stories. Or we could either play them all sequentially, and at least they get a feel for how long it's going to take, or they might say, oh, okay, all this functionality you thought about, which comes under this story, is just not that important, and they just deprioritize that stuff. But the other time it happens is during the play of the story, when you start refactoring this and when you come across that and when you start integrating with this team, you can see the stickies going up on the board again and again and again, and you can sit down with the whole team again and say, look, this is getting out of control, how do we break this up into something more manageable? So we still had the same underlying thing, which is these cards get big, but we had a much better way of dealing with it and of feeding it back to the business and saying, what do you guys want to do about this? And that made them a lot happier.
So basically, estimations are hard. Try whatever you can think about that is going to work for you. Measure it, and if it works, go ahead. If it's not, try something else.
Oh, I've broken it.
Our third problem. No code ownership. Okay, so I joined LMAX 2 years ago, and it was my first role as a developer. Okay, so it was the first time that I was working on an Agile environment. And I noticed that the people, well, one of the cool things about it is that people were jumping around between tasks and stories and everything. It was really, really cool. And I didn't have any problem jumping around those tasks because I was new to the company. I was new basically as a developer. So everywhere in the code that I end up working, or every single task, even for whatever miserable it is, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to learn something and it's going to be awesome. So I didn't have any problem with that. What I noticed when I start getting more and more and more knowledge about the platform is that I still wasn't volunteering myself in the daily stand-ups for trying to go to a different story and try something new. I was like, no, I'm going to let the other guys just do it. And if I don't say anything, I will still be in the same task, and I could see it from the beginning to the end and get that fluffy feeling of, yes, I did this. No, I contributed something. Funny thing is that I wasn't alone.
So there were developers feeling unhappy because they hadn't got this sense of completion or this sense of ownership of cards. But as well as that, a lot of the pieces of functionality we're trying to deliver with the cards didn't have this architectural vision. I mean, rotating pairs through a card is really good for sharing knowledge. It's really great for getting people to come onto a story and say, oh, this isn't going to work because I know this problem, or actually there's a more elegant way of doing it. But if you're constantly rotating people through the cards, you can also get this sort of architectural churn as people bring their own preferences to a card. And then the design can kind of float and move around and has no real clear direction. So the stories kind of needed an owner, and the developers felt the need to actually own something. The logical thing to do was to assign a developer to a story.
And that's what we did. We came up with this thing of story ownership. Someone, right, on the team will say, well, I have a vision for this story. I know where we went, what the solution should look like. So I'm going to be the owner. I'm going to be the champion for this story, for the whole duration of the story. That person, like I said, will not move from the story, and he always got someone else rotating in and out of the pair. I don't know if I mentioned it, but we do pair programming a lot. So yeah, so people will get the benefit of spreading the knowledge because every day someone new to the story, will sit by the champion, right? And we also get the benefit of, yes, the vision is cohesive. It's there. We're not going to move it. So it looked like a really, really good idea. But, yes, but the problem is that having a champion for that story meant that the vision was what that person had. So even if that person was, if the vision wasn't really, really great, and someone else has pointed out that, oh, well, you know, I don't think that we should be going in that direction. I can pretend, if I'm the champion, I don't like your suggestion. Yeah, totally. I can think we can change that. Blah, 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 blah. And then I only have to wait for a day for you to rotate out, and then I can do my own thing, right? So, again, not really cool. Also, the other problem that we found is that some people were always volunteering for more than one story. So we got blocked because we have lanes where we can work on more than one story, and those people were saying, well, we can't work on this story right now because I want to finish this, and when we finish this, then we can move on to that one. So we didn't really solve the problem.
We kind of got the worst of both worlds.
Yes, again.
At the same time, we had another team trying out something else. They had the same problem, and this is the great thing about working in multiple teams in a small company that all talk to each other. They're all trying and experimenting their own different things. Another team was trying this thing swarming. So,
go ahead.
The idea being that in the course of that iteration, that team will only work on one story, not parallelize things, not have the 3 channels that were on my Kanban board, just have one. And this sounded mental. It sounded like a crazy idea. You can't have 4 developers all working on one story. That's like quad programming. That's insane. You're bound to get stuck, and you're bound to have dependencies on each other, and it's just not going to work. It's going to slow you down. It turns out that actually it works. You have to be really careful with your task breakdown. Your tasks have to be parallelizable. You have to have good communication.
And testable.
And testable still. You have to have good communication because if you've got, say, 2 pairs, the 4 people have to be able to tell each other what they're working on. But the context switching as you change pairs every day is nowhere near as bad. You're all working on the same story. You're all moving towards the same goal on the same story. And at the end of it, you've all achieved that one story. You all get that warm, fluffy sense. And you all worked on the task breakdown, you all worked on the design, so there's a cohesive vision. So it fixed the two problems we had with the stories not having direction and with the developers not feeling ownership. But in addition, we ended up with certainly velocity that was not made worse, and frequently our velocity was faster because we didn't have context switching.
Cool.
Problem 4, rushing to release. We do continuous delivery. That means that, I say we, I don't work there anymore. They do continuous delivery, which means that the releases happen every 2 weeks. And what happens is we do the releases do the iterations from Wednesday to Wednesday. We want to release to production the Saturday immediately following the second Wednesday. Oh, look at my great hand drawing, you can't even understand that writing. Which means that in order to feasibly get the release candidate through production-like environments and test it in integration-like environments, you need to take a release candidate on the Friday, really. Which actually means our iteration is a bit shorter than 2 weeks. It's really a week and a half. That means being very disciplined on the Friday.
But we're humans again. So we end up having this problem, Red Fridays. A run through our CI environment takes an hour. We have like 10,000 between acceptance tests, unit tests, compatibility tests,
performance tests, static analysis tests,
test. Okay, so it means that in one day we can only at least have, if we're lucky, we only have 7 runs. What we did on those Fridays, right, in the daily stand-up for Fridays, we had to say, we have to be honest with ourselves and say, yes, the story that we're working on, it's ready to go to production, is code complete and tested or not. And like, yeah, again, we're humans, so, yeah, of course. We're really bad at estimation, so we said, it's almost ready. It's only just a tiny 1%. It's just a tiny thing that we need to do. And obviously, that tiny little thing we need to do exploded. And then it conflicted with someone else's problems, integration problems, blah, 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 blah. So at the end of the Friday, we had that. Almost 5,000 tests were almost completely broken. And because we had so many commits, everybody was rushing to commit. It was really hard to identify who had broken what. And yes, we are supposed to be, responsible, and we have to, we all have to keep an eye on CI, but I'm rushing because my story is almost done. Remember? It's just a tiny little thing that I have to finish. So, yeah, someone else will fix that. I'm trying to finish the thing because I need to go into production. So, we try something else.
Our first phase, as usual, was to try and almost formalize the process we were already doing. So Fridays were a little bit of a nightmare, and we would take Mondays and Tuesdays, not work on any functionality, not work on any stories, don't pick up anything new, just focus on the tests. Make sure everything is functional, working, green, so that you have a release candidate probably early on the Monday, but we continue finding any of the defects and fixing those on the Monday and Tuesday and just doing fixes. And that's the only thing to do on Monday and Tuesday.
Also, sorry, yep, go ahead. No, yeah, basically, it didn't work. The problem that we have this time is that only people with a strong sense of responsibility or with big OCD.
What's wrong with OCD?
Nothing. So they were the only ones trying to fix someone. The rest of they were the only ones keeping an eye on CI, trying to fix the bugs that someone else had introduced, right? So. We didn't solve anything. We just formalized, like she said, we just formalized the problem. We have 3, 4, 5 people just working on that. And because those guys are working on that, I don't have to pay attention to that. If I can start working on my new functionality if I don't commit to trunk, right? Because, I mean, you guys can fix that, and I can advance a little bit, get something done. But that meant that we have loads of code that was not going into CI, we didn't know if that's going to work or not, etc., etc., etc. So we didn't solve anything. What do we do then? We try. Someone heard about this approach that Chromium was working on called tree sheriff, and we liked the idea. So what we did was gather these volunteers. Well, these volunteers plus someone else's, and we said, okay, so we're gonna devote a whole day of one developer per day just to keep an eye on CI, and as soon as the CI, the build that's going through, has more than X amount of failures, cancel that run, revert everything, and get back to the green state that it was before. And then go physically, stand up, go to the pair that is working on that has those commits in the commit line and say, guys, you might be responsible for the breakage that we just saw, so work on it. These are the tests that we have seen broken, do something about it, okay? So basically, it was just the responsibility of the sheriff is just to make sure that the release is the build is at any point releasable.
Releasable.
Thank you. And what do we mean by that? We meant that we didn't have any problems, and at any time we could go either with the current build that was running or the run before, because it was really green and we didn't have any problem. If we had to, submit an emergency patch or whatever, we had a stable release.
And we really could go to production at any moment in time.
Guess what?
It worked. It actually did work. The build went green, even including, because the state of the system, because there's a certain amount of timing issues and there's asynchronousness, there's a certain amount of intermittency with some of the tests. But this focus on keeping the build green, reverting all failures, and in addition, the sheriffs had time to work on intermittent tests and poor tests and make them better during their day's duty. The build went green and it stayed green. And we don't have the Red Wednesday problem. And the code is releasable at
Red Wednesday?
Red Wednesday.
Oh.
Red every day.
Red
Friday.
Every day was
we don't have that problem anymore. They don't have that problem anymore. And it was seen as so important by the business because the business, they are the ones who are going to say, we don't want to devote a developer to this, we want developers to work on new functionality. But actually, the business are very keen on making sure that what's in production is extremely good quality, that they can release at any moment in time, and that the thing that goes into production is safe and is ready to go. And they were quite keen to spend one developer to make sure that this was the case.
Yep. Still, I think it's a kind of a smell, the fact that we have to have a developer 8 hours a day to babysit the build. The only thing, well, one of the main thing that they have to do is, if the build goes over a certain threshold, just revert everything. That sounds like a script or a program, guys, what I'm talking about. So we don't really need to have someone there every time, but still, it's a really good start and it's working really good for us.
So we've basically just outlined 4 distinct problems challenges that we came across during the 4 years that I was there, and some of the approaches we took in order to actually look at how to fix them and what worked and what didn't work for LMAX. There's a bunch of other things that we kind of looked at, we tried, didn't try, did or did not work for us. If you want to grab us and ask us about them at any time, then you can totally do that, and I will pass you on to Israel.
Yeah, I'm the LMAX guy.
Exactly, you're the LMAX monkey now.
To summarize, yes. The thing is that we don't do anything magical, right? I don't know if you guys have been into the talk from the guy from JetBrains. Thank you. It's just applying, and this morning Lee Evans. Thank you.
Here? No.
The guy from ThoughtWorks that was saying, apply a scientific approach. Neil, thank you. I'm horrible with names, by the way. So yes, that's basically what we do. We have a look at the problem that we have, we think about a solution, we try it, we measure it. If it works for us, that's fine, and if it doesn't work, we try something else. The worst case that can happen is that you fail really, really quick, so you can try many different things, and if you find the solution, you have found the solution, right?
Right. I think we've got plenty of time for questions.
Whoa.
If anyone's got questions about LMAX or Agile.
Yeah.
With QA, what do you think at LMAX is the behavioral difference and the technical difference between QA
So I don't know if you guys heard the question, but it's in LMAX, what's the technical level of the QA people?
No, the mindset.
The mindset.
Like, why do you need a QA?
Right.
Why do we need a QA?
Why have a separate QA to a developer?
Why can't developers do it in a BDD?
Sure. So the way that so at LMAX they have like 4 testers to like
Currently, yes.
24 developers. So most of the testing is done in an automated way by the developers. So the testing is unit, integration, acceptance. We have a DSL for doing acceptance tests. The QAs are really good for helping guide some of those tests because they have this great mindset of, did you think about the unhappy path, right? Because the developers are always thinking about happy path. So they often pair in order to come up with scenarios to test. The other thing they do is they still do exploratory testing. But in terms of behavioral differences in mindset, the QAs are really good at going, did you think about what happens when I try and break it like this? And developers go, don't do that. That's a crazy thing to do.
I hate them.
So that's the main difference between developers and QAs.
So it's not that we finish something and then we dump it into them. It's just that we integrate with them. Yep. Cool. You're doing it right then. Someone else? Yeah?
With a new feature every 15 days, do you know if the client can follow up with your development? Do you know if they use the new feature?
Okay, so with the new features going in every 2 weeks, how do we know the new features are being used effectively, right? Or how do we know the value of the features that are being developed? Now, LMAX features are all sorts of different types of features. Some are UI features for individual users. Some are features which are requested by a number of broker users who they have an account manager, so they actually have someone inside LMAX who'll talk physically to that user. And some are features for internal use. So if it's a broad feature for everyday users, it's quite difficult to know whether it's being used or not. But if it's something like a new order type, then we track that. Obviously, we can report on the number of types of orders. If it's something like for a specific user who has like an account manager, then obviously a number of the sales guys and the account guys, they will only get these users on board if LMAX provides that feature. And if that person comes on and spends the money, it doesn't matter if they use that feature or not. The point is that, you know, they're actually using the platform.
She left the company a month ago, and what she doesn't know is that we were really, she knows that she was trying to hide that we were kind of really rubbish at tracking that kind of thing, that if the clients were using those features or not. Since she left, I don't know if it's a correlation there, but since she left, we've been working on a new project, internal project, to try to track those things and then tag every time that a user, regardless of the channels that they use to connect, thank you, to the platform, we tag that, we load that, and then we generate reports. Cool. Something else? Yeah.
How big was your development team? And the second question, did you ever check your velocities in terms of Scrum sprints to understand if the estimation was?
I heard the first one, but not the second one. I'm going to answer the first one, and then you can, right? So he asked how big was the team, is the team?
It was about 12 when I joined.
Yeah, and right now we're around 20, and we're trying to grow up to under 24. And we're not really feeling the pain of bringing new people because we're pairing all the time, and it's really, really seamless integration. Whoosh. What else? What was the second one?
Did you check the velocities in terms of the sprints to understand if your estimation was correct or not? Because you were having problems with estimations. Did you check the velocities to understand what is correct estimation?
Right, so are you effectively saying if we look at the estimates over time and get the mean of those estimates, can we end up with a suitable? Yeah, I mean that's I forgot to mention that. That's one of the things we kept thinking is that as we go, the more iterations will go, the better of an average we'll get. But the thing was that the teams were constantly changing. We went from 1 team to 2 teams to 3 teams. The velocity changed depending on which epic we were playing, which the business area was. And since the milestones lasted for 3 months, it meant that every 3 months you were starting on a new set of features. And this is particularly true because back in those days we hadn't even gone live, so we were doing brand new features and a brand new platform that didn't even have any customers. So we didn't get a lot of value out of doing that.
Something else? Yep.
Yep.
How did you kind of mix the things with the critical issues?
How is that? How do we mix the production issues and?
Right now, we have been through a different. Again, we try many different things. Right. The current iteration is that we have a prod support team, which means that from the 4 teams that we have currently developing new features, working on internal tools, and making sure that the performance is awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's better. Every day, every 3 days, all of those teams need to provide with 1 developer. So those guys, the only thing that they do over the course of a day is just check production bugs, how to, basically
production bugs and
production
defects.
support.
If there's no prod support stuff, they'll work on defects. I mean, there's always like low priority stuff to do, or if not, they can do some refactoring. And the prod support team is 4 people.
Yeah.
4 people.
Yeah.
And they rotate through. Everyone only spends 3 days in there.
And also, we have a kind of approach of a DevOps team, so we have also an IS person or system, I don't know how you guys call it, and a QA person as well. So it's a really multidisciplinary team. And but we need to get better. I mean, we need to try to find, it's working right now, but we need to get better. And if the production issue that gets reported, it's big enough, or which we haven't have a really big production issue. But if it's important, right, or it's big enough in the sense of it's gonna get more than 2 people that rotates every day out of that thing, but it needs a focus team. We put it into that team that we think it's more suitable to fix that, and it gets prioritized. Obviously, production issue, and we drop whatever the hell we're doing, and we work on that. Anything else?
Okay, so how do we make sure the developers are on board with the changes that are going through? That's easy, actually, because it's usually suggested by a developer. So we don't have, oh goodness, Tengen's going to kill me. LMAX don't have project managers, don't even have a product owner anymore. The only real interface between the developers and the rest of the business is the BAs, who are more like a sort of architect BA type role.
Yep.
So there's really no one coming to development saying, thou shalt do, thou shalt be. So swarming was one of the team leads, that was his idea. No estimations was a different team lead.
It's just, like
brown bags was my idea. Skills 101 was your idea. There's a lot of the stuff that are up there all come from some developer. And the ones that don't work, then they just get ditched, because if the developers aren't bored with it, it's not going to work.
Nothing else?
Is that it?
Cool.
Great.
So thank you very much, guys, for coming. Oh, there's someone that I've seen. No? Who's coming down? You're coming down.
No.
Okay.
He's
Okay, bye.
Great. Thank you very much.